In a world full of distractions, there is one big question on every dog owner's lips.
How do I become more than just the person holding the other end of the leash?
We all get dogs with a dream in mind, a vision of the future. And if right now your everyday reality isn't quite that picture you had in mind, you are in the right place.
It really doesn't have to be this way.
You absolutely can and will be more to your dog than just the person who gets in between them and the world.
The key is you need to be more sexy.
More sexy than the neighbourhood cat.
More sexy than the jogger in the park.
More sexy than that half-eaten hamburger they just found on the floor.
And yes, even more sexy than the dog across the road.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Lauren.
Together we're Absolute Dogs.
And you're listening to the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast. And welcome to the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast, the podcast that gives you real life dog training and human training results. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Tower. He's had a couple of episodes with me, and last time we were chatting, he said, you know what, we should do something a little bit different next time. And I was like, you know what, let's do that. So we're talking today myth busting, in fact, loose leash walking and recall sort of issues. And we literally have we have a pretty epic episode. What do you reckon, Tower? We have a pretty cool episode for
Absolutely. I'm excited. These are two subjects that, at least in my neck of the woods, very hotly debated, very common struggles. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting in, as you say, busting some myths and hopefully providing hope for people, that it is not just busting myths, but giving people hope that this is achievable.
You say in your neck of the woods, are you saying you don't live in Devon where I live? Like, come on, we know each other from local Devon, right?
Right, totally down at the pub. But yeah, you can tell by my accent or by your accent that we're neighbors. No, in fact, I live in California. I love it here, and I've talked before about the beautiful sunny days in California. We're actually having one of our cloudy days today. We're actually getting some rain.
Oh my God.
Which is awesome.
Sunshine. We've had non-stop sunshine. So you know what? Today is a day I don't need to live in California. Most days I'm like, take me, Tower, to California. Yeah. What do you do, Tower? Like, tell us a little bit about just a whistle stop, because I know you and I can talk for hours. So we're going to have to do whistle stop. Lot to cover today.
That's going to be tough.
Stop Tower intro.
I gave a little bit there. I'm a dog trainer. I've been training. I started back in the 90s, and I started with aversive training.
Surely you were born in the 90s. I mean, come on.
I was born in the 70s, believe it or not. The tail end of the 70s, but yes. And I started, when training, I started using aversives, and it was in an effort to debunk positive reinforcement that I set out to learn about positive reinforcement. I fell in love with it and realized how wrong I was with aversives, and fell in love with positive, with games, with clicker and all that. And I love it. It's life-changing for me, for the people, for the dogs. It's me in a nutshell. If you want to know more, I recommend there's a couple episodes with me in it that we talk more about my journey. Go listen to those. So that's kind of the whistle stop. You can hear more about it in the other ones. And
we're talking some pretty big topics today. Like, they are some of the biggest struggles faced by man and beast. A recall being just painful when you don't have it, let's be honest, and a pleasure when you do. And loose leash walking, I met a lovely pro dog trainer today. She came up to me and she said, Lauren, you changed my life. And I literally was like, no, Lynn, you changed your life. Like, you are doing this, you are amazing. And so I was chatting to Lynn, and Lynn is here for a top up. She's here at the training centre in Devon, and she's here for a top up on loose leash walking. And she said it's one of her biggest bucket fillers. It's one of her most painful. It actually hurts. So when her dog pulls, it hurts. And it's a painful experience for her to have a dog that isn't walking nicely. So lovely, lovely Lynn, amazing owner. What would you say are some of the sort of common misconceptions when we think about loose leash walking, when we think about recall? Like, what would you say some of those are? And I think what we'll do throughout the whole of this is we'll do a bit of tips tennis. So you'll have some things, I'll have some things, and let's set this alight.
First one for me, I would say one that I hear is my dog can't learn a recall, or my dog can't learn to not pull. That's blatantly false. It can. Yeah, your dog can learn both loose leash walking and a recall. It's just taking the time. How we think of things informs how we interact with it. If we believe my dog can't learn that, you're right. But if you believe, yeah, my dog can learn that, you're also right. So I'd say first off, that myth is that your dog, fill in the blank of your dog, can't learn it. Absolutely can.
Nice one. And I really love the whole like Henry Ford quote, really, whether you think you can, or you think you can't, you're probably right. And so there's a huge belief there in whatever you can do. I know whenever I've put my mind to something, it will happen. It will happen.
Mhm.
I've really put my mind at it. So for me, that makes a massive difference, like a huge difference. So the power of mindset, biggie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another for me is, at least in the area I live in the mountains, the Sierra Nevada mountains. My town is at 6,000 feet. We're up there, we're in the mountains. And it's a very common phrase to hear, oh, it's a trucky dog town I live in. Trucky dog, they don't know what a leash is. They don't have to be on leash. My dog's better off leash. I think that's wrong. Sure, you might see that your dog's better, but I personally have never experienced a dog who had issues on a leash that didn't have issues off the leash. It's connected. They're connected. I think it's putting a Band-Aid on it. Say, no, my dog can be free. It's okay. Let my dog just go do whatever it wants. It's like, no, there needs to be some boundaries, and some healthy boundaries. What if there's a skunk over there? Well, you need to be able to get your dog away from the skunk. What if there's a road over there? Don't let your dog run into the road. Freedom isn't quite what you think. So it's that balance of that misconception that, oh, we just got to let your dog off.
I think mine would add to that for sure, Tower. The idea that my mum is hilarious at this. I love my mum, and she's also very funny. Dogs need to go running every day. They have to go running. For them to be happy, they need to go for a run. And to make sure a dog has a good quality of life, they must go running. And I look at lots of people here, I'm sure would have heard of Nifty and Nifty Solutions, part of the training academy, and Nifty our young border collie, red border collie in training. She definitely has not had a lot of free running opportunities since she went legging it after the sheep at about 7 months old. She legged it after the sheep. She ran up and down the fence. I was like, Nifty. There was literally zilch. All of my dogs come back. All of my dogs, none of my dogs really are interested in the sheep. I've never had a dog who is running the fence line. And I was like, in that moment, interesting. Okay, this is it. I will rugby tackle her to the floor in a very kind way, but there was still a rugby tackle in there. I interrupted it. I took her in, made no deal of it. But the next plan is that you don't get to rehearse that again, and no, you don't get more off leash. So I think those things are really, really vital. And yeah, my mum would say, that's cruel. This dog needs to have off leash running every single day. Don't think for a minute our dogs don't get exercise, but they don't get that off leash running in proximity to sheep where they are going to potentially learn a behavior that we don't want to wire in, right?
Absolutely. And kind of, I love that, and expand on that. Like, you going through it with Nifty, I go through it with Bagheera. When I first got Bagheera, which is actually a year ago now, I've had her for a year. I got her when she was about 9 months old, and we just passed a year, which is really cool. When I first got her, I took her for a walk, because that's what you do. So Rue and I, my older dog, we go out for a walk every morning. And so sure, Bagheera joined us. I started noticing I'm a little slow. It takes me some time sometimes. That after about a week, that was not actually helping her, that it was filling her bucket. she was coming back more anxious, more stressed, and more like, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. It's holy cow. She doesn't need an excuse to get more excited. So I think the myth pairing off of what you're saying is dogs don't need walks every day. Dogs don't need to go for walks. We can exercise them in different ways. Like Nifty doesn't need to go for a walk, but you can get exercise in other ways. Bagheera, I've started walking her and she's doing so much better. This morning we're out walking and holy cow, it's so much better. But it's because I've spent time and built that and worked that. It's very different. It's not just going walking for the sake of burning off energy. That no, it doesn't help. We want to build it to a positive completion. If you don't have an end goal in mind, just going out and burning off energy, like I saw with Bagheera, it was not helping. It was filling that bucket up, adding to her stress level, adding to my stress level. I stopped walking her. And she actually, as we talk, she and Rue are sleeping. That she now knows how to calm down. It's huge.
Massive learning curves alongside, I think, let's beat the myth of initially when I was in dog training, right back in the day when, I don't know, I was 15, 16, it would be practice, 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 keep practicing recall, keep practicing your loose leash walking, loose leash walk for an hour and a half around your exercise class, not exercise class, dog training class. Loose leash walk everywhere. Like literally that is what you do. You practice, you practice, you practice. And when you go wrong, you stand still. And when it's going right, you just keep practicing, keep going. And it would be like rounds and rounds and rounds. And I remember this right to the point, Tower, that I was teaching a class and these guys were coming into class and they were being towed by their dogs and their dogs are towing them to class. And then from that moment, they're in class, they're behaving, and then they get towed back to the car. And so for me, the idea of lots and lots and lots of loose leash practicing just isn't for me. Like it's not for me. And I know that actually what we're not doing is we're not doing hours of loose leash walking. What we really need to do is input on proximity. And so inputting on proximity is king, and inputting on loose leash constantly is not the way forward, right?
So kind of pairing off of that, let me ask you, what would top three, what would you say for someone, I'm struggling with loose leash walk, Lauren, what are the top three concepts, not knowing my dog, but in general, what would you say the top three concepts are that for someone to work on?
I would absolutely go number one, proximity. Number one, proximity is king, because proximity is everything when it comes to loose leash walking, like literally. And proximity, for those that don't know, think about games where your dog is close to you. So for easy, for example, it was middle, magic hand, middle on the move, games like leg weaves, like games that get her thinking that anything around my body is cool, rather than being in the distance. Disengagement, so being able to disengage from the environment, massive. Like she just had no ability to disengage from the environment and engage on me. So that was a biggie. And then probably focus, because her focus was often in the wrong place and often in the wrong space. And I needed to bring it back to me. You know what, there's more, I mean, for sure. If you limit me to three, that's probably three. But you know what, calmness is a nice one to add into the mix as well, because a dog who kicks up arousal too quickly is hard to bring back down to loose leash spaces. There are some more as well. I mean, those.
Yeah, I would add, I totally agree. I would add in there possibly optimism. Yeah. I don't think you can ever have too much optimism. Like I've never met a dog that, well, Lauren, your problem is your dog's too optimistic. We got to help. No. And what's fun, if I can then tie that in, you mentioned those concepts. What do we have? We had proximity, disengagement, focus, optimism, and calmness. Yeah. Those five, if that's all we ever worked on with our focus of building a loose leash, guess what? We're gonna get a good recall too. Yeah. Sure, we're focusing on loose leash, but holy cow, we're gonna get a good recall. And that's, I think, kind of tying into myth busting. So many people see them as separate issues. Absolutely. For me, off leash freedom, whatever that looks like, being off the leash comes from on leash skills. A
Absolutely.
dog that can't walk well on leash, pay attention on leash, is reactive on leash, isn't going to be better when they're off leash. Off leash freedom comes from on leash. And just like I mentioned, those 5 concepts plus many others, man, holy cow, it sets you up for success.
People get it so crazily wrong when they think that a dog on leash that can't behave is going to behave better off leash. I'm like, guys, if they can't respond to you on leash, there is no chance off leash. And I think that's another myth that's sort of there as well, right? Like, get that sorted first, like really get that sorted first. And I was at the beach only the other day. A man with a big German Shepherd who was doing kind of backflips shouted over, "Hey, can I let my dog come play with yours? He'd really like to socialize." And I was like, "Oh dear Lord, no!" Like, and so I very politely said, and it's the first time I've ever actually managed to say this line. I've never needed it so much before. And it was, I'm really sorry, but I just don't think they'd enjoy that experience. And I politely moved on. Another one though, God, I have to, this one, Tower, weird experience, a really weird experience. And this is an experience I don't often get because often people recognize me, I think. I very really questioning what I'm doing with a dog. And I had a young dog. We sometimes do the odd bit of residential training, and I was working with a young dog, and I was at an event. So I was at it was a local-ish event. So it wasn't like a big event. It was a local-ish event. So a low-key one, and agility. And I had the little dog with me, and I was wandering around, and a lady came up to me, and I just stood in front of the pup, and I said, "This one doesn't need to do any meet and greets for the minute, because we're practicing not greeting." And the lady said, "So you're not socializing?" And I was like, no, we're working on this pup being able to be super cool in the environment, but doesn't need to go learning to jump all over you. Because I said, it's just been a pain in the past, like when I've seen it in dogs, it's just not always cool. And she's like, "You're not saying my dog that's like really friendly here, that we've done a bad job? Like, is this not what you want? This dog is very friendly with puppies. He's absolutely good with them, jumping all over him." I said, I understand. It's just not something I want this dog practicing right now. It's not going to be good for them or him or his owners. And she was like, but this is just, are you saying, is this dog not vaccinated? I was like, no, nothing to do with anything else. And Matt was like, Lauren, quit. You're not getting anywhere. You're not getting anywhere. That misconception that you need to go off and play with other dogs, or your dog must have other dogs play with them, or to be able to be a nice dog, off leash, on leash, recall, loose leash, that they must be social as well. And actually, I really believe that that's another myth that we could really bust here, is that, you know what, having, for me, a social dog or having a dog that's actually robust to disengage from the environment are 2 very different things. Like, I really want a dog who's cool, confident, cool at proximity, not really fussed on other dogs in other spaces. And that for me makes a difference. And I know this isn't the myth we're busting today, because God, that socialization myth could be another buster, like, couldn't it? Yeah. However, I absolutely know in that moment that lady was very disappointed in me not allowing my dog to be jumped all over or jump on her dog. I think that also potentially ruins recall and ruins off leash and ruins on leash when you allow too much of that early on.
And I like where you're going with that, and I think it highlights the idea that it's connected. These are all connected. Again, we're talking 2 subjects, loose leash walking and recall, but you brought up socializing. It's connected. Absolutely. They're not necessarily separate issues. When I work with people now, as opposed to in the past, I used to deal with symptoms. Oh, your dog pulls on leash, that's an issue. Your dog doesn't have a recall, okay, that's an issue. Your dog needs to be socialized, that's an issue. 3 separate issues we'll deal with in 3 separate ways. Now it's a matter of, okay, we mentioned 5 concepts already. If that's all we ever work on, we're going to get a good leash walk. We're going to get a good recall. And we're going to get good socializing just off of those 5 concepts. And there's many more to work on. That it's connected. It's working with the dog at the base level. I talked about it before in previous podcasts. Ask different questions. You'll get different answers. Instead of saying just, I want my dog to stop pulling on leash. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. ask a different question. What do you want your dog to do? I want my dog to walk nicely next to me. Or maybe I just want my dog to stop pulling.
Yeah,
Cool. That gives you then the idea, okay, this is what I want it to look like. This is how to get there. It gives you some formula. Ask different questions, you'll get different answers. And when you have an idea of the direction you want to go, it's so much more powerful. I know for me, I've worked with, and I can imagine for you, I've worked with dogs that we've never directly worked on loose leash walking or
absolutely,
recall,
absolutely.
and they have an amazing loose leash walk. There's one that comes to mind that we never directly worked on it, but then one day it's like, okay, well, let's work on loose leash walking.
And it was,
And we spent like 15 minutes, and it's like, actually, we're good. And then
yeah.
another dog, it's like, okay, it's time, let's work on a recall. And it's like, oh, well, actually, we're good.
And
And it's like, holy cow.
that's the example I could definitely give there, Tower, on Nifty. That for those of you that have been following the Training Academy and Nifty Solutions, Nifty, honestly, like, so obsessed with chase. And yet with working on, I really did say, like, you know what, 6 weeks, purely proximity. I'm giving myself a 3-week plan and then a 6-week plan. Proximity is the way. Focus, proximity, disengagement, and nothing else. Literally, that is her diet. That is how her diet is for the next few weeks. We're not having like movie nights, and we're not having like out. Like, we literally are working on this. This is our diet. And I think that's how you look at it. You're like, right, what do I really need to hone in on for this period of time? That's what I needed to hone in on for that period of time. And then her recall's really exceptional suddenly, like really exceptional. And yet I've just done no recalls, and it's niffed, and she's like whiplash, like she is whiplash. So from going from a dog who was running head on like that fast away from you with zero, like zero ability to hear, like it was like the hearing is gone. And we know obviously scientifically that it pretty much has some days. And so that actually they cannot hear you when they're in that state. And actually she really is bang and back at you as fast as she went. So yeah, no, I think that's really, really cool stuff. Now, I think if we go to like, think about hacks, like some super hacks, some super tricks, some super quick fixes, if there are any. And you know what, there might not be any, but actually you and I both know that there are some things that people could do that are superpowers. There's superpowers in this that might help people to manage their dog's pulling or recall struggles. What could be an easy win or a super cool, like, wow, now moment that might help listeners to see there is hope for loose leash walking, and for a dog that may currently not be in a good space? Like, what are our immediate sort of wins that we could have?
I think first one might not surprise you, but the listener might surprise you, is maybe stop walking your dog. Not permanently, but for a season. Lauren just mentioned 6-week time schedule, 3-week time schedule. I did it with Bagheera. I noticed what I was doing was not getting me where I wanted to go. Why keep doing it?
Absolutely.
I stopped walking. And it sounds really counterintuitive. You mentioned your mom. I deal with many people. Your dog has to go for a walk. Why? There's other ways to exercise a dog. If what you're currently doing.
I've got a client for you. I think my mum she's going to book in. She's going to book in. I am not able to train her. You are.
Yeah.
You've got your
biggest
challenge. Your biggest challenge yet.
I could do it. Yeah. But ask, is what you're currently doing getting you where you want to go? If it is, awesome, keep doing it. If it isn't, stop. And you might not have an answer as to what do I do instead. Contact somebody, get a hold of me, get a hold of Lauren, find a pro dog trainer in your area. They can help. Ask the Absolute Dogs community, get in training academy, figure something out. But why keep doing what you're doing if it's not getting you results? If my goal is I want to get 6-pack abs and I'm eating a pint of ice cream every night, why am I not getting 6-pack abs? Well,
Tower, you didn't tell me this before. I should have known.
I crossed the line there. Sorry. Okay.
Guys, ice cream was an issue. I seriously, the mindset is the hardest thing. Like, I definitely think that, and I'm going to use my mum and Mango as the best example here, because my mum, her biggest thought is that she is being cruel by not doing that. And so that's sometimes the biggest thing to overcome. And I absolutely agree. It's a super hack. And the biggest struggle there is working on the individual. My next super hack is going to be very similar. You've ditched your walks. I'm ditching the bowl. I'm like, you have 200 pieces of dinner each day, or 100 pieces of dinner, or say you own a Nifty, you've got about 150. Say you own a Bagheera, you've got about 250, whatever it might be. You know what? The power in your reinforcement, I had to say to myself, okay, no longer is Nifty having long-lasting chews that are filled like frozen chews for calmness. I'm actually going to take all of that value and I'm going to put it in my pocket. And when I've got that value in my pocket, I mean something to her. So if she always has to get it directly from my pocket instead of out a long-lasting chew, or even worse, a bowl, I just swore to the community, a bowl. What, I need to stop using these things. I need to stop putting her food in Kongs and bones. And actually, I need to be using her food from my pocket, because now we're not working on calmness. We actually are working way bigger now on proximity and focus. So calmness wasn't Nifty's top sort of 1, 2, really. It was kind of 3, 4 on the list. And so, yeah, ditch the bowl, and then ditch the more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, another one that I see a lot, the walk starts before you grab the leash. It starts before you go out the door. So many people I see, they start the walk with, hey, you want to go for a walk? Yeah, hey, Fluffy, let's go for a walk. Oh, let's grab the leash. Let's put it on. All right, let's go. And as I do that, the gear perks up. But, oh, yeah, let's go for a walk. And then you wonder, why is my dog helicoptering at the end of the leash? Because you wound them up before you got going. The walk starts before you even grab the leash. If you can get out the house calm, you're setting yourself up for success. It's not a guarantee. Oh, because we left the house calm, therefore it's going to work. That's not a guarantee, but the other way is a guarantee. If you leave the house excited, you're going to have an excited walk. The walk starts before you grab the leash. Slow down. Take your time. I've worked with some clients. It's taken me 20 minutes to get out the door because we're working on calm. We're working on bringing the arousal down to a space that the dog can actually think.
Now, this is
the dog's.
So it's such a brilliant point. And this is something that Matt and I do every morning. We walk between 6 and 8 dogs every morning. Everyone asks, which dogs? How? When? I always walk between 6 and 8. It just depends on what I'm doing, really, and who's coming out and who's not. Like, for example, one of our dogs right now has sliced a pad. I've got Brave, who some days she comes, some days she doesn't. It just depends how she looks. She sometimes looks a little bit sore. She's got a spinal condition, for those that don't know of Brave and what she's been through. Check out the YouTube channel, because Brave's got a really wonderful video about being brave. And so in the morning between 6 and 8 dogs, I will walk, and they do get to walk most of the time, not all of the time. If I've got someone that's being particularly tricksy, I don't. Nifty right now doesn't come on group walks because I just don't think it's appropriate. But actually how you transition to getting out. So like you said, Tower, on the lead, for me, because I can walk from home without a lead, actually I won't put leads on some where it's appropriate, so I don't even bring that into the mix, but others would be on a lead. So fair doesn't mean equal. So for example, Eva is on her lead in the morning. She's on a head collar harness or a collar harness or a double lead of some sort. I would say that typically Mango would be on lead. Mum and Dad's dog, she would also be on lead, whereas I would say Classic would not be on lead at all. She would just be on a little bit of scatter food as she comes out. Now, fair doesn't mean equal, so I don't need to treat them all the same for those people with multi-dog households. And when I bring them out, what I might also do is transition with a little bit of scattering. I might transition with, because to get sort of 6, 7, 8 dogs out with no noise is a challenge, right? Like to have them out with no vocalization or keeping the arousal down, and we do typically go out most mornings because we quite like it. But that doesn't mean some days I go to walk out and someone is not behaving. That means they stay at home. And people cannot get over that. They're like, how? I'm like, well, Classic just broke the boundary 3 times. I literally should not be letting her have a third. He can go back inside. Tokyo jumped at the window and started barking at everyone. He can go back inside and he can think about that for a bit, and we'll come back to that. And later when I get back, and latent learning will kick in at some point here, and he will get to go out for a toilet break, but not for a walk. I do believe that you get what you tolerate. I don't tolerate noise. Going out on my walk. I don't love ever. The reason she doesn't get to go off lead straight away is that she will charge and she'll go way ahead, and then she'll lie down and herd everyone coming into them. So I'm like, she can go off lead on the way home, but she doesn't go off lead on the way out. So you make your rules. So my, I suppose, quick tip win out of all of those things is transition it, use your scatter feeding. Fair doesn't mean equal. You can put one dog on a harness and the other dog off lead. Like, you make the rules. Just because one's off lead doesn't mean they both need to be off lead. Just because you're walking one doesn't need to mean you need to walk the other. Don't feel guilty about the dog that stays at home. As long as they get some other form of enrichment and they've been to the toilet, then that's cool. And actually it leaves you with an easier life because you can flex it as you need to, right?
Absolutely. I love that. Fair doesn't mean equal. You hear that so much. Well, I gave this dog a treat, so therefore this dog needs a treat. No, I walk this dog, so therefore whatever it is, fair doesn't mean equal. Like most mornings, Rue and we start the day by going for a walk. There's a pond just down the hill from me that I go walking around. I love it. For me, it's refreshing. Like, I'm sure for you and Matt, I love starting the day. It's awesome, especially with the cool mornings. I love that. Rue loves that. And for Rue, it gets me where I want to go with her. So yeah, keep doing it. So it's starting that day. Oh, this is awesome. Bagheera doesn't always go for a walk. I'm very much, today was different. Like, it's rainy out this morning. I love it. We went for a walk around the pond. Rue and I went for a walk around the pond. We came back.
You are mad. You are a mad. It's raining. He likes it. I'm like, we need to swap lives for a bit, I feel.
Well, when you don't get a lot of rain, it's enjoyable when it does come.
Crazy.
But yeah, so I went for a walk with Rue around the pond. I'll listen to a podcast. There was a great one on this morning. I went for a walk around the pond, came back, and took Bagheera out. They don't go together. I don't walk them together. In a rare situation, I might go out to the woods somewhere and walk them together. It's not that they can't walk together. It's when I walk Rue, I don't have to focus. It's a break for me. She's so oriented to me. I can tune out. I can listen to a podcast. This morning, it was absolutely gorgeous. I was taking in the scenery. Oh, that's relaxing. Bagheera, I can't do that. I need to be focused on the environment, making sure, okay, what's ahead of me? Is there a dog coming? Just to be aware of this and just kind of plan ahead, pay attention. I don't listen to podcasts while I'm walking her. It's being aware. I guess that would be a top tip. Know the dog you're working with. What are their skills? What are they capable of? I'm not going to walk Rue the same as Bagheera and vice versa. Like, I'm not going to disregard and let Bagheera off leash and just tune out and walk. At the same time, I don't need to walk Rue very vigilant and paying attention. Know who it is that you're working with, where they're at in their learning process, and give them grace. There's been a couple times, like you've mentioned with your dogs, where I start going out with Bagheera and it's like, nope. Okay, we're just working out in the driveway. Okay, cool. This ain't working. Let's go back in and maybe we'll do some trick training. Maybe we'll do something else. It's change of plans. I love that you're saying fair doesn't mean equal. So often we get that confused that, oh, because I walked Rue off leash around the pond, therefore I have to walk Bagheera off leash around the pond. No, you don't. No, you don't.
I think that leads really nicely to another easy win, because I think we're thinking easy wins is sometimes do what's going to give you success. Like, sometimes like success builds success. And so some people say, oh no, that's cheating, or that's just doing what's easy. I'm like, you know what? I built Easy's recall and Easy's loose leash all on middle. She was so good at it. I just kept using it. Like, I just was like, you know what, I'm going to build success. So if you've got something that's really successful, and then my other really good, I think solid, and we've already mentioned it, but easy, like massive win for me is just carry your dog's food on you. Always work with a hungry dog and carry their food on you. No trainer wants a dog that isn't hungry. You always want a susceptible to reinforcement opportunity. So you need a dog who's susceptible to reinforcement. If they're not susceptible to reinforcement, so if you have given them their food in the bowl that morning, or you have given them a big old bone before you walk them, they're probably not going to be interested in what you got in your pocket. Whereas actually for me, it's like now I'm like, oh, what can I eat for dinner? I haven't eaten for 4 or 5 hours. I'm hungry. That's the best time to work with me, right? If you've got like, I'm hungry. Whereas when I've had everything and I've sat there and I'm chilling, it's not the best thing to ask for much, right? So I think we need to look at our dogs in the same way, that work with a dog who's hungry to work, who wants to work with you, and carry your food on you, like carry food on you. And if you are not keen to carry your dog's raw food and say you're a raw feeder, visit one of Michelle's bake-offs and listen to how she does bake-off in a really cool way. Dan, you should come. You know what? You get a ticket on me. You should come. And so
I would love to.
You are welcome. So the next one is on, well, there's a couple coming up, a wellness and superfoods one. So I want you on that one. So
I would love it.
Your ticket. And so the food is always on me. And whether it's Michelle's super treats or whether it's my own dog's sort of kibble, like it doesn't really matter what you're using as long as your dog wants it. And I would say that's a really, really easy win for loose leash and recall.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Throw another, my turn, easy win. I think a lot of people get stuck. Like I mentioned, I walk through around the pond, and for me, from my door, if I go down and do a lap and come back, is 1.2 miles. And so many people get stuck. I have to walk my 1.2 miles with my dog every day. Or if I do 2 laps around the pond, it adds 2.2 miles. Don't be worried about distance or time. For some clients, I tell them, don't leave the driveway. Work on, like I said, it's taken me some clients 20 minutes to get out the door. Cool. That's doing something. It's not like, oh, we have to go our 5 miles. If we don't do our 5 miles, we're stuck. Get that out of your head. Don't be worried about, I have to go so far. It could be that you made it to the bottom of your stairs. It could be that you made it to the end of your driveway. It could be that you made it, for me, down to the pond and we didn't go around. For Bagheera, that I slowly inched her up. Like I haven't done a full lap with Bagheera in a while. Like today we went down to the pond and we walked along one edge of it and we came back. We did not do a full lap. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that I have to do this distance. No, a walk really is a training loop. And if that training loop is broken, all your practicing is broken. Even if, like in my example, I walked down to the pond, it was amazing. I walked the one side of the pond, it was amazing. That was awesome. And then I go to the other side of the pond and it falls apart. Then I just erased all the good work that I did.
And people,
why?
They just don't have I think this is where I want our listeners to have even more self-control, even more sort of willpower here. And I'm just thinking before we move on, because I really want to move on to our super strategies for owners. Really, I want to move on to some strategy. I think this is where so many people go wrong. They allow too big a picture and they allow the rehearsal to go wrong. So they just don't want to narrow the picture and make the picture smaller. If I think about how small Nifty's pictures had to be to try and get her on board and to try and let her realize that, I think it's powerful stuff, Tower, like really powerful stuff. So I suppose now, do you have super strategies or any super strategies for owners out there who just don't know what to do with their dog that pulls on a lead or has no recall? I think we need 3 to 5 of our top sort of favorites, really, of like just quick tips for owners.
I think for me, the first one is, I've kind of alluded to it, slow down. Take your time. If you're all anxious, if you're all, oh, gotta get this done, if you're stressed, guess what? It's not gonna go up. Slow down. Take your time. again, it could be just walking to the end of the driveway and back. Maybe you do that 5 times. Slow down. That, I think it's so often we so overlook that. It's like, no, I have slow down. And I
Oh,
purposely say it slowly.
you're speaking.
Slow
You're
down. Feeling personal here? So yeah, slow down. And I'm saying it slowly. I keep repeating it. There's somebody out there, maybe it's the Lord, somebody out there, slow down. And for me, that is probably the #1 top tip of anything, is specifically talking, leash walking, and recall. Slow down.
And I genuinely think you could have been with my granddad and I earlier, because I was like, how do I slow down? I was like running from place to place. He's like, can you please just sit down? I was like, there's so many things to do, granddad. He's like, I can't hear you. I'm like, I haven't got time to repeat it again. So it was like, I suppose, really super strategy for owners who do not know what to do with a dog who is either pulling or not coming back. Think about what you're letting them rehearse. Rehearsal for me is so important. So many people forget that they're allowing them to rehearse all the things they don't want them to rehearse. I absolutely need our dogs to rehearse. I would prefer they rehearse like 2 minutes of good than 10 minutes of good and 10 minutes of bad. Like, I don't want Nifty to go running at the fence. I don't care that she's recalled 10 times. Every time she runs at that fence, she'll run it again. And so for me, that is really, really important, like really important.
I think another one, we kind of alluded to it, maybe even mentioned it before. We talk so much, I lose track. Pay attention to the dog in front of you.
Yeah.
And if it means, like, I've got 2 dogs, they're dramatically different. You, Lauren, have multiple dogs. People listening, maybe you just have 1 dog, maybe you have multiple dogs. Pay attention to the dog in front of you. What are their skills? What do they need? Where are they at currently? Like, I've got the gear next to me. And like I say, there's sometimes I start and it's like, whoa, you are not there. Where's your head at? It's not with me. Stop walking. Change up. Be flexible. Pay attention to the dog that's in front of you. What is it they need? Do they need a walk right now? Do they not need a walk? Paying attention to that dog in front of you, I think, is huge.
I love it. I do. And I think it's vital. And then in line with that, pay attention to that dog, know that dog. And then I think this is really key, and people do not do this. Know the purpose of your walk before you go out. You and I think we get it. Like in the morning when I go out with my dogs, it is a bit of quick exercise for me. It's a breath of fresh air. I love getting out with the sunrise, and most of my dogs get a toilet break. However, the dogs that don't get to go, so say, for example, I'm taking 6 and a couple of them aren't coming, Brave, the purpose of that walk for her is toilet breaking. Well, we're going to go out to the toilet in the garden that day. Or say it's Nifty, hers is a training walk. So I don't take a dog on a training walk with multiple other dogs so that I cannot focus on her, because when you've got 6 other dogs out, you can't focus on one really easily unless all of them are absolutely impeccable and ready. And even then, you're going to have one go a little bit wonky in one direction now and again. It's just animals. And so for me, know the purpose of your walk. So many people go out for a lovely, relaxing pub walk with a dog who's untrained, or so many people go out for a lovely walk with a friend with a dog who has no recall. You know what? Those are not the dogs to walk on that walk. What you need is to take that dog out on a training walk. So effectively, our walks are circuits. Our walks are training walks. Our walks are opportunities to rehearse good training. But what they are not, and I think this is really, really vital, is they are not going to be free-for-alls where they just learn the wrong thing and you undo all of the good that you've already done. So I think know the purpose of your walk. I love what you said. You're like, sometimes I just want to go out, chill, listen to a podcast and look at the environment. Other days I'm game on and I'm ready. And I think you kind of need to know which one you are before you get out, because you don't always feel in the mood to go out for a training circuit walk. I'm not always in the mood for that. I'm always in the mood for a podcast walk. I'm always in the mood for a look at the scenery walk. But last night was a great example. Matt and I went up on the moors. We took Mango and Wild, and we literally went and played with waterfalls and pretty things, but there's no way Nifty would have come on me. There were sheep everywhere. There were stock everywhere, to be honest, cows, ponies, sheep. They're all loose on Dart. We live on Dartmoor National Park. Those of you that haven't visited Bowerland, it is immensely beautiful. Dartmoor National Park, beautiful rivers, beautiful big open moorland, like ponies as natives, sheep just grazing everywhere. It's stunning.
All right, you talked me into it. I'll come visit.
It's also not the best space to walk a dog with no recall, or with poor recall, or a dog that you're still is a bit of a gambler. Nifty's good, but she's a gambler. She'll take a gamble, she'll take a punch. She's still like a bit like, oh, okay, off I go. So you just got to be ready for these. So yeah, that's where we are on that one. How about you? Any other strategies that you
I think an important one that's very often overlooked is using the right equipment. We so often don't put thought into equipment, be it a harness, be it a flat collar, be it what kind of leash, be it a short leash, be it a long line. Long lines are amazing, and I think they get so often overlooked. I use the long line a lot with Bagheera. That I think is a huge one. Tying it into, as you mentioned previously, being aware of what your dog's rehearsing. If your dog doesn't have a recall, don't let them off leash. If they can't practice not coming back, then you're already ahead in the game in building that recall. And that's why a long line is awesome for that. It gives them that space, gives them that freedom, and allows them to roam around without having to be right next to you. But yet, if you do need to get them back, at the very least, you can reel that line in and get them back. Equipment I think is so often overlooked. Be aware of what equipment. Do you need the head collar? Do you just need a flat collar? Do you need a harness? Do you need a front clip harness? Do you need a back clip harness? Do you need a double clip harness? Being aware of what equipment, again, understand the dog in front of you. There's some days that I walk Bagheera on a harness. There's some days I don't. There's some days where I use double clip on the harness. There's some days I use one clip on the harness. It really varies on the dog in front of me and the mood she's in and what we're working on. But being aware of the equipment and knowing how to use that equipment, I think is a huge one. Long lines, don't overlook them.
I think it is huge. And I think that it's one of those areas that we as trainers, pro dog trainers, when people come to visit us and see us, is one that we can definitely help and guide. Now, thinking about just a quick one, just a quickie, literally 3 of your favorite games, and we'll go bang, 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 bang. And I'm going to start and say one of my favorite games, middle on the move, and all of the middle levels. Over to you. What's one of your favorite games? And most of these are on our YouTube channel at some point. We're not
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say the weather games.
Okay.
So I'm taking 3. I love those because it's all about proximity. I could talk about it, but I'll keep it short. Weather games.
Very, very nice. I have to say, I absolutely love tricks, and I'm taking it off you because you're going to go, you are, Lauren. I love tricks. I've always loved tricks. I've always loved working with tricks, largely for so many different reasons. Loads of you will hear more about tricks, but from what we've been chatting on Tower, and obviously from what we've got on Absolute and in different places. But tricks. Back at you. What's one of your favorites? You're not allowed that one.
One of my favorites, and it's really become a favorite with Bagheera, and it's become even more a favorite with seeing other people fall in love with it. Toy switch.
Oh, I
love toy switch because it changes the picture. So often I've met with clients and I introduce toy switch and I've heard it more than I expected to. It's almost verbatim that people say, I don't know how to play with my dog. Yeah. Toy switch opens up that it makes you more fun. If you're not fun, why would the dog want to come to you?
Yes, and yes.
Toy switch is fun.
And it makes sense, right? It makes so much sense. Now, attention noise for me, plus naming, depending on how you use it. I've been working with a young dog at the moment. Obviously, we often have clients or residential or people here, and I've been working with a young dog, a lovely owner. And she does the whole and then feeds. Now, if you can't make my rolling brrr noise, you can make noise. But I love that because it just does so much good for the bank account. So she has the attention noise, plus she has the name game bang feed, name game bang feed, literally get that food in the bank. I just love it. I just absolutely love it. So I suppose Sexier and the Squirrel, there's a whole host of games that people can look at here. There's so many in there, right? Like we love.
I was about to say that would be my sneaky throw-in pick. The Sexier than a Squirrel challenge. If you don't know what that is, you're listening to this and you're like, this is a funny name for a podcast. Well, guess what? It's a program. It's an amazing program. 25 days, 25 games, but it is such a powerful program because the base kind of idea with it, as the name implies, Sexier than a Squirrel, it's building value with you over the environment. I kind of alluded to it with Toy Switch. If you're not fun, if you're not valuable, why would the dog want to come to you? You're going to have a hard time with a recall. You're going to have a hard time with leash walking. But if you are the most valuable thing in any environment, you probably already have a really amazing recall and just don't know it. You probably already has an amazing leash walk and you don't know it. The Sexier than a Squirrel program is amazing at giving you those skills. And at the very least, if you've never dealt with Absolute Dogs and their stuff, maybe this podcast is the first time you've ever heard of Absolute Dogs. The Sexier than a Squirrel program is an amazing way of getting your feet wet. That's where I started with Absolute Dogs. That was kind of my introduction to it. And it was like, okay, I don't know what this world's about. Let me dive into this program and just see what it is. And just kind of figure out and okay, cool, and fall in love with it. I will give you one warning though, with Sexier than a Squirrel, be cautioned, it can be habit forming. So beware, it can be habit forming. It may lead to having fun.
Just be careful.
Absolutely. It could lead to having more fun with your dog than you plan to. It could lead to having a better behaved dog than you plan to. It could lead to having an amazing relationship. So be warned, it's habit forming, and it could lead you to joining Training Academy, which can lead to even more fun and even more change.
To complete addiction, right? Like we are.
It could. I mean, look at it. Like that's where I started. I started with this entry gateway drug of Sexier than a Squirrel. I'm now a pro dog trainer. I am in love with this. I love Absolute Dogs. So
talking the other day, Tower, about where are you hoping to visit this year or next year?
Maryland, Devon Dogs. I want to get out there, and like if before Sexier than a Squirrel, I didn't even know what Devon Dogs, Maryland Absolute Dogs was. So again, be warned, it can be habit forming in the best possible awesome way, and I don't know how you couldn't be happy with it. It's an amazing program. It is a gateway drug. Don't get on me. If you're upset that it's sucking you into more fun and more relationship, that's on you.
That's funny. So to wrap this up a little, I got a couple of thoughts that I want everyone to know. I suppose let's bust one final myth. Are there really quick fixes, or are there really immediate solutions to resolving this? What should people be looking for in their training? And I know we've said Sexier than a Squirrel, but actually, I think one of the biggies is consistency and longevity in this. For those things, for longevity, I think in this whole way of thinking, recall and what we're looking for in a dog, loose leash walking, I personally believe there are no real quick fixes, right? There's not like something that's just going to mend or band-aid it. I absolutely believe there are easy wins. How about you?
I like that you said it that way. I think that's an important distinction. Quick fixes often sacrifice the final result. Absolutely. Easy wins build us to that final result. In the podcast, I think it was our second episode that we talk kind of more in depth about my journey, that we talk about my background as an aversive trainer. In aversives, you're very focused on quick fixes. My dog doesn't recall. Cool, slap an e-collar on him and zap him. Don't. But that's that quick fix that that make this stop, make this stop, make this stop. I think again, I say it a lot, ask different questions, you'll get different answers. If we're purely focused on make my dog stop pulling on the leash, you're asking the wrong question. Quick fixes sacrifice long-term results and the relationship. So it's not about quick fixes, it's about easy wins. I love that you worded it that way. Easy wins. And that, I think that's important. So I don't remember what your original question was, but I love that. So I can talk, sorry.
Ultimately, easy wins are going to make us all feel better about the path we're on to, right? Like everyone wants to feel a bit better about that path. Nobody, even me, who, and we were talking about this a minute ago, like people might like to know that like someone who is a big dog trainer has had a failure. Like for me to see my own dog chasing sheep was a bit of a kick in the teeth. I was like, dear Lord, I was not expecting that today. And it hurts, like it hurts you. It's like, this can't be happening. Like, it was like is this the real life or is this a fantasy? And I was like, you know what? This isn't in the good context here. We're not looking at this in a good way. Like this is not even fantasy. This is just nightmare. Like this is like, it was territory of nightmares for me. And having a dog that chases stock and potentially is going to get shot by a farmer if you live in Devon and rural Devon like we do. So I suppose for me, it's in those days where you're finding it quite difficult, what are the easy wins? Because if not, you can get quite down about your best mate leaving you to go chase sheep. And so the quick fix, no. Easy win, yes. The easy wins were quite apparent. And so what should we be looking for, I suppose, when we're trying to help our dog struggles? I love that you've suggested Sexier and Squirrel to people. I love that we've talked easy solutions. There are some easy solutions. There are some easy wins that will give us some sort of solution-based learning. I personally believe it's exactly like you do. No quick fix. Yes, there are easy wins though.
And I think it ties in, I believe I mentioned it earlier in this podcast, it all blends together. If not, mention it now. How we think of things informs how we interact with it. So if I think my dog has to change now, that's gonna change how I interact with it. It's gonna put, I have to work on this now, it has to be fixed now. Where if I look at it in small increments, think of like a staircase. You don't get up to the second floor in a step. It takes multiple small little steps that take a step. And if you build your staircase right, you walk up those stairs and you don't even think about it. If we make it too hard in those big steps, I'm sure you've stepped up big steps and it's like, oh, this is really awkward. I have to think about my steps and it's different. If we break it down easy enough, the dog's successful, we're successful. We get real changes that way. And it's fun. It makes it more fun that we see small incremental changes.
I think that's the biggie, isn't it? It's fun. And so my final question to you, because I know that you and I can go on a long time here, like we like chatting, and I know that our listeners love chatting too. And I'm equally aware that we could go all day on this. This could be a 24-hour seminar with Tara and Lauren on this. But what's one thing that our brilliant listeners who are here today, Sex and Squirrel podcast, massive shout out to our listeners. And if you haven't already, share this podcast with someone that might be struggling with their own recall, with their own loose leash, or even just with their own positivity, optimism, because I know that Tara and I have got a lot of fun to share. What's one thing that you can start doing today, or our listeners can start doing today, to help get them on a path to a real training success? One thing they can start immediately.
The hard thing is you put the word one in there. I have many ideas. I think the easiest win and one thing, I mentioned it before, I keep saying, is change your thoughts. That's something you have power over. You might be in a place that you have no power over your dog. Like your dog is out of control, truly is obnoxious. Like, how are you ever going to get there? Change your thoughts. How you think is going to change how you interact with it. If you just look at, we just need a little win. If we look at it, wow, my dog's bucket's really full. If we look at it and how we think is going to change then how we interact with it. So change your thoughts, and that's going to have a big impact with the dog. If we look at it as like it's all hopeless, it's never going to work. You're right. We talked about it before. Henry Ford saying that it's like basically how you think is going to be your reality. Yes. So for me, I think that's probably the biggest thing. I could throw in many others, but for the one, just one, I'm keeping that one. This is like, the practice in
self-control for us.
And there you go. Yeah, exactly. Just one. I think that's the biggest one, is change how you think of things informs how you interact with them. So change your thought patterns. Your dog truly might be out of control. Sure. How you think about that dog is going to have a bigger impact on it than anything else. So for me, that's the biggest one. How about, I'm going to throw it back to you. You get one. How about you? One.
I had two, and what I was going to do is I was going to say,
nope,
well, I
just one.
This one, like, I can't do that. So I still think, and I'm going to go back to it, and I'm going to reiterate, and I'm going to say it again. It's two, but I'm still going to say, put your dog's food in your pocket, even if it's 50% of your dog's food, even if it's 25% of your dog's food, even if it's 10% of your dog's food, put your dog's food in your pocket and work with it, because reinforcement builds behavior. And if you're looking for loose leash, or if you're looking for recall, those are the behaviors you're trying to build. Well, you've got to have some reinforcement in it, because reinforcement builds behavior. Reinforcement is a building block to take you to the pathway of success. And so for me, you can't do it without reinforcement. I really believe to do it well, you need to reinforce what you want. That for me is massive. It's big. And so, yeah, like,
yeah.
Don't even think about it. Just chuck your food in your pocket. And if you don't like it in that pocket, buy a different coat just for your dog food. So that's what I've done. I'm like, that's a dog walking coat, and I'm going to dog walking. And I still find
what I do is I got a Ziploc bag. I fill up a Ziploc bag and I put it in. I have multiple training pouches, but I've got one that I use specifically for Bagheera, and I put it in there. It keeps the pouch clean. Yes. You could also do that with your pocket. Put it in a Ziploc bag and it goes in your pocket. Keeps it cleaner. So you got no excuse.
No excuses. Now, I know that our listeners are going to be loving this. It is absolutely not the last time you're going to hear from Tara and I. We've got more topics to discuss. We absolutely have more ground to cover. And if you've got suggestions or things that you'd like to hear about from us, then please send it into the Ask team. They're on ask@absolute-dogs.com. We literally are here to chat dog training, to bust myths, to literally bring on legends. You know what? We're here to serve the Sexier and Squirrel community. Now, if you're listening and you're thinking, I have a friend that should hear this, I have another dog walker, another dog owner, a mother, a sister, a brother, a long lost lover, someone who should hear this, absolutely share it. Share it today, because sharing is caring. And that is exactly how this ripple effect gets rolling and turns into like a tidal wave. So that is what we're looking for. I thank you, Tara. You've joined us and we've had a blast. Like, it's been amazing.
Absolutely. This is fun. And you keep saying it. I talk all day. Like this is, hopefully the listeners enjoy this, because this feels very much like I'm on a couch, you're on a couch, we're sitting in each other's living room and we're just chatting dogs, and the listeners kind of get to join in on that. And this is fun. I really enjoy this. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. This is fun, and kind of extend that thank you. Thank you to you and Tom for making dog training fun, making it accessible, making it enjoyable. Just thank you. It's awesome to be a part of it.
I appreciate it hugely, as I'm sure, and I know everybody out there wants. The world needs more fun. Maybe that's our next episode, more fun in dog training. Anyway, that was this episode of the Sexier and Squirrel podcast. Literally share it is caring. Like, literally make sure other people hear about it. In the next episode, we have so much action-packed information for you. Literally, we'll see you real soon. Until the next time, and remember,
stay sexy.
Stop right there, game changer. We have something very exciting to tell you about if you struggle with stressful walks right now.
So pulling your dog, yanking your arm out of its socket, just basically it's painful, right?
Now, it's a struggle that you want to transform. You want to go from pulling on lead like a train to loose leash walking prince or princess, and we've got a solution for you.
It is just £27. It's a mini course that literally is going to be your zero to hero of loose leash walking.
Day by day, we're going to be showing you the games and skills and strategies that you are going to need to implement to transform your dog's leash behavior in the next 2 weeks.
This is a complete package. You get to keep it for life. Yes, for life. And it's just £27 to you.
Access it anywhere, keep it for life, no equipment required, and all you've got to do is go to absolutedogs.me/stop pulling. And yes, it is just £27, game changers.